Well, hello everybody, and welcome to a little thing that we call Full Course Yellow. Every Thursday night we get together here just have a bit of a chat about the world of local and international motorsport. It's sort of the show we're doing when we're not doing our show. Normally we would be doing In Pit Lane. We're getting ready for a brand new series of In Pit Lane, but there's this virus thing happening apparently, and it's still out there, and our studio isn't open, and some of us are still all locked at home, and it's all terribly confusing and terribly worrying. But we hope that you will join us. If you would like to take part in any way, shape, or form, you can actually do that. You can do that by dropping us, putting something on the Facebook page or the YouTube channel in chat, and it will appear. It will appear for us. Appear for us here, or you can. If you'd like to join the panel, you're more than welcome to do that too. Just send us an email to the show at inpitlane.com and say, hey, I'd like to come on Full Course Yellow next Thursday night. And all you need is sort of halfway decent microphone, a decent camera, and promise to sort of behave yourself and be a responsible adult, and semi-responsible adult, and you can join us here on the panel as well. But yes, we'll sort of get into it. As you can see, we've got most of the usual suspects have turned up for tonight. So
does it help if you've got a decently well-behaved cat?
Your cat really. Your cat is very famous. There was the model from Office Hours last night. Darren pointing out that I have in fact spelled aging wrong. So there you go. So that didn't come up in the. I put an E in there. So thank you, Darren. It's nice to see you still looking out for us. So we'll work on that one later. During the thing. But anyway, let's find out. Let's talk about things. We've got some motor racing coming up this weekend. There's some racing happening in Tasmania. Well, not this weekend actually. It's actually happening Monday and Tuesday, which is really weird. We've got the opening round of the TCR series, the super cheap autos. The TCR series, and also, of course, S5000, the return of big open wheeler racing to Australia, and that's going to be very exciting. It will be televised live on the 7 network on both days. Also, there's two ways you can see it. It's on 7 on 7 Mate. But also, if you go to their online service, which is 7 Plus, on your smartphone or on Chromecast or Apple TV, then you can go onto 7 Plus, and they're covering the whole meeting. They're covering everything, including the local support races, which is really great to see as well. So anyway, that's what's happening this weekend. So Russell's joined us. G'day, Russell. Russell is joined, a regular on the show. So. Good to see us. Hello to Russell. But anyway, let's talk about what's happening on the weekend out at Symmons Plains. We've got basically 2 weekends of racing coming up. We've got Symmons Plains happening Monday and Tuesday. That's up at Symmons Plains in the north of Tasmania, and then later in the week they actually go down to Baskerville in Hobart, and we haven't seen a big race meeting at Baskerville for many, many years. I was hoping to get down there myself if I'd had the money and the time. I'd love to go and see a race at Baskerville. Great little track, fabulous old-fashioned tiny little track in a natural amphitheatre. If you happen to be watching us from Tasmania and anywhere near Hobart, get down there. It's going to be fantastic. But anyway, let's have a look at the. There's an entry list coming up, so it's an interesting entry list that we've got there at the moment.
Just the first one at the entry list in the BRM, Tommy Smith. He's also secured a drive overseas in the Euro Regional Championship over there, which is the same one Rubens Barrichello, son Eduardo, is in, I think, Brett. So
yeah,
all the best to Tommy Smith later on in the year.
And as it turns out, Tommy is actually racing the car that Rubens Barrichello ran when he was out here. When he ran in the ill-fated Grand Prix meeting earlier in the year, they at least got some track time. So he's driving the car that Rubens also ran at ran at Sandown last year, which was interesting. So so that was good. So Tommy, in fact, we caught up with Tommy out at Sandown. He was at the Shannon series a couple of weeks ago, end of November. Start of December with the Formula 3 series there. He was running a Toyota Racing Series car, one of the older Formula Toyotas from New Zealand. But while we were there, I caught up with Tommy and sort of asked him about the process, about testing the Formula, also the S5000.
The S5000 test was went really well. It was at the Bend on the really long circuit. I think it's like 7.2 kilometres. So longest track I've ever been on, and it took 2 sessions to learn where I was going, but it was really good. Yeah, I picked the track up pretty quick. It probably took 2 sessions, but I actually already knew half the track, which was kind of weird, and then the other half I had to learn. So and it's pretty tight down the back there. It was a great track. It does create good racing, not having downforce. I find everything I race overseas in F3, and there's just, you can't pass, and it sort of ruins the whole racing experience.
Yeah, that was Tommy Smith out at Sandown, and later in that interview, we'll put that up on the YouTube channel fairly soon. He spoke about his international race. He's already raced overseas, raced in Asian Formula 3, has done some testing over with Formula Renault in Europe as well, and was looking to go back this year. And unfortunately, once again, because of the current situation, that may be up in the air now. So at least Formula, and this is the great thing about S5000, is it gives people like Tommy, and also there's another name there which is interesting, just underneath that of Tim Macro, and that's Joey Mawson. And Joey, of course, was a regular on the German Formula 4 Championship, and actually was a teammate and ended up beating a young guy called Mick Schumacher in that series. So Joey is down. He raced Carrera Cup last year in Europe, and he's come back to Australia, and because not being able to get back there at this stage, he's managed to pick up a drive this weekend at Simmons Plains. Also, another name down there, of course, down the bottom there, we've got Tom Randall, our mate Tom. And good news, you might have seen that Thomas has put on his Facebook page, if you haven't seen it. Thomas, with his battle with testicular cancer, after his last race, after Bathurst and all of and his Super 2 commitments and winning the Super 2 championship, he went back into hospital for some fairly extensive surgery to remove some more problematical material there. And the good news is now that he's now officially in remission. So that's fabulous news. So congratulations to Tom. Really happy about that.
Yeah, he had a tough New Year, didn't he, Brett? With going through a bit of chemo. I think one of it, the last session was on New Year's Day. The poor beggar. So good luck to Thomas, and he's on the road to recovery, and wish him all the best and hope he's got the strength. Just quickly back to Tommy, he has secured a drive with the JD Motorsport squad there for the Italian for the regional European Championship. So he has got a drive over there for the year.
Yeah, I think the problem at the moment is whether he's actually going to be able to get there and under the circumstances. So, because everything is still up in the air at the moment. It was interesting looking at some figures last night, though, and they're very worrying figures coming out of certainly Great Britain. Is that the experts are there saying now that right now the growth, because of this new strain they've got of the virus, the growth of the virus is well and truly outstripping the pace at which they can get the vaccine out. So at the moment, the vaccine is not really having any great effect, even though they've gone into sort of double time to try and vaccinate lots of people. It's not at the stage yet where it's having that much of an effect. So they're saying lockdowns and restrictions on travel are going to continue for quite some time. So how that affects sort of things later on in the year for all of the races that are supposed to be happening in Europe and in other parts of the world, we don't know at this. We really don't know at this stage. We're seeing the problems that we're having trying to get a tennis match started here in Australia at the moment. We were lucky with the cricket. I think, as we said last week, I'm really happy they decided to not try and push through the Grand Prix, because that would be
That's a good question, actually. Did everyone wash their own hair today, or did they get someone else to do it for them? But anyway.
Well, I have no idea what that means.
Bernard Tomic's girlfriend is in lockdown with him in the hotel room. So he's came back over from, where did he go? Dubai or Qatar or something like that for the preliminary, the qualifying round. So he went over all the way to there, and he's come back, and she's in lockdown with him. And she went on social media and said that the worst part about being locked in a hotel room for 14 days and not being able to do anything is I have to wash my own hair. I've never had to do it in my life before. Someone's always done it for me. So this is just absolutely disgraceful. And she says she's been taking the mickey, but everyone's been slamming and saying, oh, God. Anyway, so. And Bernard Tomic's just sitting in the background there going, totally, the sympathiser extraordinaire behind her, of course, just playing the legitimate card. You know how naive Mr. Bernard can be. So anyway, moving right along, back to the S5000s. There's a few of the usual suspects there too, guys. I noticed Ricky Capo, who was in the debut series at Sandown, debut day, I should say, when they kicked off in the biggest wave after the test days down at Phillip Island. Also, James Golding, who was a flash in the pan, he really took like it to a duck to water at Sandown, and threw the car around, was in the top three pretty much all the way. Another good friend of the show there, Lewis Leeds, who's signed up for GRM for the year, so we wish him all the best. And he was good enough to bring. I think he brought his race suit and helmet in early last year. So
if you remember because we were in the small on that night. If you remember, we were in the small studio. We were in Studio D on that night because the main studio was being used for something else. And he came in and took advantage of the studio to be able to do some publicity shots with his full gear and all the rest of it, because he had all the nice lights and the backdrop and all the rest of it. So that's one thing that we can do in the studio. I mean, if we've done it with bands as well. I mean, they can come in there and they've got advantage of a studio. But unfortunately, where the studio is currently not open, and at this stage there are no firm plans that we know of to reopen the studio in at RMIT for the foreseeable future. So in terms of what we do with the next series of In Pit Lane, which is due to start in March, we haven't sort of gone down too far down the track with that yet. We've certainly spoken to I'll just turn that. We've certainly spoken to a few Victorian State Series categories about the possibility of going and covering some of their races to fill a few programs. But once again, all of these things, there's lots of things we could do. It's just without a studio, it becomes a lot more. It's not quite as straightforward to do it, and it becomes an awful lot more expensive. So anyway, we will sort that out.
Well, Brett, you know what my suggestion is for that?
Well, yeah, I think we'll talk about it, because I think that's a good idea. But once again, I mean, it's whenever we do stuff on location, we have to get equipment there, we have to get crew there. It's not straightforward as sort of just getting off the train at Melbourne Central and walking across the road. So it's. But anyway, we'll talk about that later, and hopefully have something for you, some news for you later on in the week. In terms of what's happening, so anyway, as far as the S5000, I think that James Golding, after his incredible performance in the opening couple of races, I think that he's probably going to start a warm favourite, especially down at Symmons Plains, because he's got recent experience there in the supercars. Interesting that Tommy was sort of talking about the fact that the the cars don't, he really noticed the lack of downforce after his, what he'd raced after the Formula 3s that he'd raced in Asia and cars he'd raced in Europe and tested in Europe. He really noticed that lack of downforce, and I think that that's something that brings someone like James Golding right into it, because he's used to driving a big, powerful car that doesn't have a whole heap of downforce comparatively, and he showed that. He showed that with his win at Sandown, what is now sort of back in 2019. So he'll certainly start favourite. I think that Tim McRow, of course, they're now running for the Gold Star again. Tim, of course, a Gold Star, multiple Gold Star champion. Fabulous that the Gold Star is back, the most prestigious individual award in all of local motorsport, and it's taken a bit of a break for a while, and now it's back. And I'm sure Tim would like to add to his
probably paraphrase
record.
a little bit, Brett, is with the cars, as you were saying, with the lack of downforce and probably the GRM power plant that they've all got specifically in the back of them. The feedback we got from the Sandown round, obviously they haven't had a chance to be on the track too much since, except for probably testing has been the main avenue that the drivers have been able to get some time with the cars. The feedback we originally got from Sandown when they got the most hands on the wheel was you've got to be able to muscle, no downforce, but a lot of raw power. So you've got to be able to muscle the car around. But if you don't give it that finesse and give it that respect to be able to guide it and try and harness that raw power and smooth it out, you're going to get, you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of the next runner that is just trying to throw the thing around and can't put a handle on it. So, yeah, they're a beast. Rubens Barrichello in the interview that we grabbed him for, and pretty much Tim, and I think John also mentioned as well, though, too. The more time they get in it, the more they're going to produce out of the car. So it's not something they can get in there and it's going to bang every lap out at 1 minute 45 and not see much of an increase. Give it time and a few rounds throughout the year, and as we all know now from this, you're going to have a great track lineup for the whole year, where they're going to have advantages and disadvantages and short courses and long courses. And different track surface as well too. Some of them will be newer than others. Some of them will be patched up. So it's going to really be an awesome year for seeing. And some guys are going to adapt to some tracks better than others. As you said, James Golding will have an advantage down there in Tassie, whereas Tim might have a more of an advantage down at Phillip Island with the great big long straights and the top end speed. So it's going to be lots of fun watching all throughout the year and on live TV as well too.
Yeah, I think the thing, this is going to be the year. It's really good that they've got a decent lineup, because what we were worried about, after it was, we were always going to get a good feel for that first couple of races. They went overboard and they brought in Rubens and they brought in Alex Davison, and later on, and James Davison came in as well. So they brought those guys in, but this is more indicative of the sort of fields we'll see for the rest of the series. Joey Mawson will go back to Europe. We might lose Tommy going into Europe as well. Possibly Lewis Leeds or a couple, but they'll be replaced with other people as well. But it's in terms of their as Nathan said, and the and also as Paul is saying there about just how spectacular. We haven't had an open wheeler category in Australia since Formula 5000 that's just captured the public's imagination. Formula Pacific was fantastic. I love the and people forget how big it was in terms of they had Panasonic, the major electronics company was behind them. They had the Panasonic series. Big fields, international drivers out at Calder for the Grand Prix. People like Alain Prost and Niki Lauda and Roberto Marino came out for the Australian Grand Prix for Formula Pacific. But they just never captured the public's imagination. I think what Paul's saying, how they sounded at Albert Park, and the advantage they had at Albert Park, which unfortunately they won't have anywhere else, is they were able to run through without mufflers, and that made a big difference to how they sounded. But Yeah, as Nathan said, the opening round, the S5000s were awesome. They were great, good racing, look good, sound good. They're presented well. I mean, Gary and Barry Rogers are doing a fabulous job in getting all those cars onto the track, and yeah, we'll have sort of 2 days of really good racing, and you can watch it not just here in Australia, but if anybody's watching us from overseas. You'll be able to watch it. Motorsport.tv have got the international rights, and they're going to stream it free. You don't have to actually be a part of their paid service. So if you're outside of Australia and New Zealand, it'll be geo-blocked in there, but here. But for the rest of the world, if you want to watch the meeting, both TCR and S5000, then you'll be able to watch that courtesy of Motorsport.tv.
Unless you have an IP address that's situated overseas, and then you won't be geo blocked.
Well, yes, the V. Well, I mean, you don't have to worry.
Sorry, Stuart, did you have some ideas on that?
VPN is your friend, but I mean, we don't have to worry because, as I said, it'll be on free to air television, but it will also be every round will be on 7+, and as I said, on 7+ on both Monday and Tuesday. They're covering pretty much the whole meeting, and as I said, I'm really thrilled to see that they're going to be covering the local Tasmanian support categories as well. So basically, on 7+, they're running from about midday through till 6 o'clock. So Monday and Tuesday, the cricket might be over for the moment, but we've got no problem at all in filling up our days to watch. Here we go, Precy. How are you? From Shane, a member of our crew, is with us, and I'll get that thing to you very soon, mate.
Shane showed up.
Yeah, so we'll.
Where's all our comments earlier? We've been running the show for 20 minutes, and finally Priesty shows up.
Paul's pointing out we have had some local there. Sprint cars came back to Avalon the other night. Well, Wednesday night couldn't get down, but they sold out. They're obviously limited in the number of people they can let in. And around 4 o'clock, 4:30 or something, they put on their Facebook page, "Don't come. We've sold it. That's it. We've sold all the tickets that we're allowed to sell. Thank you very much." But there you go. But you can see James J. McFadden was the guy who won. They're running at Warrnambool tomorrow, and of course, and Saturday night. So so a bit of a sprint car trail is sort of Easter sprint car trail before Easter. Is happening in lieu of some of the national series that have obviously had to be cancelled. So big crowds turning out, and I believe they had a pretty good turnout. The Nyora at their meeting had good turnout. So slowly but surely we're getting back to normal again.
It looks like the Rolling Thunder YouTube has been updated with the events from that meeting
from
5 days ago. Yep.
Oh, okay.
It says Simpson 5000 final 5 days ago.
Oh no, that was because the sprint. So and as you said, the sprint cars they're racing at Borderline Speedway tonight at Mount Gambier. So so nobody who's interested in Speedway is looking at us tonight because if I don't know if there's a live stream or not from Mount Gambier, but
they could be looking at could be watching YouTube on their little phone as they're sitting there next to the track watching the cars go around.
Yeah, but anyway, so that's good. That's good stuff that the Speedway is back, and we've got racing coming up at Winton. I think next weekend. 30th and the 31st of January. I know that there's a 1 hour XL race. Richard Outram, who was with us last week, Richard will be heading up there. He's busy preparing his car at the moment. So so he's heading up to Winton. They're not sure what the situation is up there in terms of spectators, but contact or go into the Winton Raceway Facebook page and they'll let you know, because I know there's
they are throwing events left, right, and centre at social media. I think they're trying to get some real momentum going this year. So, and then they're open to anyone that wants to plan something or any experience at all. So good on them for throwing themselves out there and opening the doors to the public and saying that they'll accommodate any sort of anything to do with motorsport anyone can possibly do. Even if you want to run your Matchbox car around the thing, they're pretty good like that at the moment. So we could have an in pit lane Matchbox car race, slot car race.
I'm still thinking about the 24-hour HQ race. I still think there's legs on a 24-hour HQ race before the HQs get too old, before the drivers get too old. A 24-hour HQ race tickles my fancy.
With or without
But
power
only
Almost a
one.
steering?
vintage car race, isn't it?
Well, yes.
With or without
Almost,
power
yes.
steering?
Without.
Yeah, there without.
Well,
With
come
or
on,
without
it's
air
things where it
conditioning?
doesn't corner anyway, and I could make a Valiant go around circles around them.
That'd make they'd probably request an extra driver lineup for instead of if it's going to be 24 instead of 4 people, they want 5 if they haven't got power steering. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, well, I know, like in the 3 hour.
I agree with you,
know,
Stuart. I agree with you.
There were in the 3 hour they were having the Paul saying he remembers the old 24-hour relays in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, they were there. We never. I don't know why. I mean, I think because it's up at Winton. I mean, we never had the opportunity to go up because that would have been good to cover at some stage. But you know, that's well, it was probably before we started. What 96? So yeah, so basically 26 years. So they would have been finished by the time we turned up with our cameras.
And even when In Pit Lane started, a drive to Winton was an expedition into the unknown compared to a quick run up the freeway now.
That's true.
Yeah, well, it was that was the thing. It was always, and still to an extent it still is. I mean, it's going up to Winton, whether it's going up to Winton or going down to Phillip Island, it's an expense. I mean, it's a long trip up, it's a long trip back. It's not we can go out to Sandown pretty easy. I mean,
It's
even
all freeways now, Brett. It's all freeways. It's get onto the road and put cruise control on in a modern car and just relax for a little while. Whereas before, you pretty much needed an off-road vehicle just to go down the freeway or the highway.
You have a very good point, and most modern cars have cup holders too. So not your race car, but a cup holder. So they have Bluetooth cup holders, drink bottle holders, as Stuart was just doing a demonstration for. So yeah, there's lots of there's not just cruise control. There's lots of that little bits and pieces that you can have experience. And if you've got Rugrats in the back, you either have a built-in video screen into your headrest of your driver's seat, or you hang one over it.
Or you use gaffer tape.
Racing, yes.
Preferably
racing.
They've got seatbelts these days, Pete.
yeah, but
I wasn't meaning for the seats.
yeah. If you got Rugrats, the gaffer tape can be applied
Multi-purpose.
to the mouth area.
Yeah, multi-purposable. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
keep them quiet. I don't know, Peter. Is there anything happening in Formula One? I mean, everybody's sort of getting ready for their. We've seen photos of people in new dry overalls and all the rest of it. That's about all we've seen, isn't it? What's happening in Formula One?
There's not much happening apart from management restructures at Renault.
What's the goss on George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, Peter?
That Toto Wolff has said he has to stop making mistakes, George Russell, but then so should the pit crew.
Well, yeah, it wasn't. It certainly wasn't his.
But didn't I see something that George Russell's a threat to Hamilton?
I haven't seen that.
I saw something along the lines of he's not making mistakes, but if the pieces in the puzzle had fallen in the right fashion, that George might have been he might be being a bit underdone at the moment, a bit hard done by, and he could. I don't know if Valtteri Bottas is in a threatening position from it. I'm not sure. I think his contract's another couple of years as well too.
Well,
but
he's got another year.
Lewis is still not signed, and the problem is, I mean, Bernie Ecclestone. Bernie Ecclestone came out and basically said, this is not the time to be playing games. Lewis, just we know you're going to come back. Don't hold out there. Do the right thing. But he was basically saying if he was in charge at. If he was in charge at Mercedes, he'd be saying, I'll give you a week, and if it's not signed by Friday, we've got some options. You're not the only, You're not the only card in the deck.
Not knocking his driving. He's one of the best drivers that's ever driven a Formula One car, or best any full stop in the world. His talent, his workmanship, his dedication, all that's great. But I tell you, if he didn't have a career in Formula One, he'd be great on stage because he's a great drama queen. Mr. Hamilton is.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I mean, the problem is, and people are pandering to him. And I think that's what Bernie was saying. Is Bernie is saying, look, I wouldn't be pandering to him.
Yep,
I'd be just saying that,
suckers.
you could, but the car's pretty good too, and the team's really, really good. So it's not just you. And if you don't sign. At the moment, if he's in a situation, if he doesn't re-sign with Mercedes, where the hell else will he go? They're not going to get rid of they're going to get rid of Perez I mean, that would be you have to get out of. He's always said he'd like to do NASCAR, but he certainly wouldn't be. They certainly wouldn't be copying that sort of behaviour in NASCAR.
I think some of the teams will be over the political debate and the bloody driver swapping and the innuendo and all the rubbish that's been going on the last 6 months. I'm sure there are people that are absolutely not just the public's sick of hearing about on the speculation, who's driving for who's going, who's signing, all this, the backyard deals, the underhand stuff. I mean, it's just it hasn't gone to a new level. It's just been saturated the last 6 months, and I think that's because there wasn't as much to focus on as usual. So, I mean, but to carry on, that's what I'm saying. You made an extremely good point there. Stop being an absolute toe rag and just sign on the dotted line, hit a figure, and the old saying is, and we know it doesn't matter what you do in life, if it's a multi-person operation, whatever you're doing, you're only as good as your team.
Yeah. The F1's always been a motor racing themed soap opera, let's face
it. Yeah, especially now. I mean, the other thing with Lewis too is that he's got the and what we see. I mean, we see the worst of it because we get the Sky television feed, which of course the British commentators just pandered him like nobody. Lewis can do absolutely no wrong. He is the chosen one. He's the golden child. So they really push him, and that's one of the problems of not having sort of your own commentary team. I mean, back in the days when we had, in the early days of live Formula One in Australia, when we had Big Darrell Eastlake along with Alan Jones. You can imagine what if Alan Jones was commentating now, it'd be like watching Lewis and some of his.
They put a harness on him in the last few years. If they let him loose, ooh.
Well, unfortunately. Well, we know what happened. I mean, AJ lost the gig on the BBC. I think it was on the BBC. It might have been ITV, but he lost the British gig after James Hunt died. He only had sort of one or two races with Murray Walker, and he got stuck into. What did he lose for when he called Schumacher an arrogant little kraut? So, that was the end of his. Formula One commentary career.
I was great way to end a career. Sorry, go, Stuart.
I was going to go with that. As for Mr. Lewis Hamilton not being able to do any wrong, Vic Rhodes might want to argue that point.
Well, yes, but I mean that was sort of
a little bit too much tire smoke.
Welcome
on
to the
public
nanny
roads.
states. Yeah.
Did he actually get a slap on the wrist for that, or he get let off?
Oh, heck yes. Yes, he did.
Effectively a little.
Yeah, he didn't face any. I don't think he got fined, but he had to.
He had to make a court appearance because he was at a race meeting in another country.
Yeah, there was a grovelling apology, and
he had to say that these days on the road.
Donuts through the front gates, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was out on the public roads though. That was the problem.
Right.
He got his company car to take for a spin one evening, wasn't it?
He came out of the circuit and did a donut onto Canterbury Road or somewhere.
Isn't it funny how Lewis gets that and it just makes small headlines? But when Mark Webber came out and said that Australia's driving and roads, etc., the whole conglomerate of We're a nanny state over here. And the Prime Minister has to step in and make a bloody respond to that. So Lewis can go just do a burnout and cop a bloody Vic Roads and a little bit of, everyone will just put some fake burnouts up and say, look, this is probably Lewis. But yet when Mark Webber says something, doesn't even do it, and he gets bloody slammed.
But what was the thing about that? The really embarrassing thing about that is, if you remember, that what happened was we had sort of the chief of police or something for Victoria Police, or the head of the traffic division. Actually, as part of the public relations things, is all of the 24 so-called best drivers in the world have had to sit there in a room at the driver's briefing and be lectured by Constable Clod from Victoria, sitting there going, yes, now this sort of behaviour will not be tolerated in the state of Victoria. Yeah, it's very, very dangerous. You could lose control of your car like that. I mean, you've broke traction. It's very you don't understand. I mean,
he under-rotated.
Come on.
I think he under-rotated, didn't he? Yeah.
It would look so ridiculous. I mean,
that's what I mean. You put a Formula
police
One
having a drag car or a drift car and turning up and doing good public relations are long gone.
And you know what? They used to be popular for doing that. When they did go out,
do you remember the VK, the yellow VK Interceptor that used to turn up at Calder Park every time?
I think I do. I do, Stuart.
It was quick, and it was good PR.
Not only good PR, they got a lot of respect for doing that sort of stuff, and they got it for years. And you know what? They were probably getting a lot of respect from a lot more people, males, females, kids alike, for doing that sort of stuff. And that's dozens or hundreds of people that would think twice out in the road and say, no, they go and do it off the street. They go and do it at a proper drag meet. They do it at a proper circuit. So I should too. Yes. And it's just that interaction you're saying, Stuart.
Actually, to their credit, the guys behind that have still, they were still out there, and I got an email from a couple of them about a year or so ago, and they were trying to sort of keep it going because they'd lost the funding and they were trying to get back there and ramp that all up again, because it had been enormously successful, because they weren't just using it as a public relations stunt. What they were doing is they were getting kids with problems in the western suburbs, and they were saying say, hey, look, instead of pretending, going out and in the back streets and pretending you're a racing driver and pretending you know about cars, why don't you put your money where your mouth is and come out to Calder Park with us and crew on this thing, and we'll show you how to prepare a car, and we'll show you how to drive it, and we'll show and you'll see the discipline that's involved in actually running it. And so it was a really good training ground and an opportunity for a lot of young people out there who basically got some real world experience running in the team. So I'm not sure what'll happen, because of course, unfortunately, as I think we said last week, we have no drag racing at all happening at Calder. I did I don't think I'm going outside of too many confidences to say that I spoke with Peter out at Calder Park on the weekend, and basically the situation at the moment is they are still waiting to finish. It's a situation now that they are that close to being able to run things again, but they just until that track, there's no point saying putting up things every week saying, oh, this is what's been done and that's what's done. They are just so close to getting back on the track again, but until everything is finished is finished off, all the work is finished, and it gets ticked off by Andra and the local councils or whoever needs to do that sort of work, and also to the complete satisfaction of Rodney Rodney Jane out at Calder Park, and who is the owner out there. Then we'll get racing again. Now, whether that's at the end of next month, whether it's in early March, when it is, but the moment, as Peter said, the moment we can get on the track at Calder Park or indeed Adelaide, there will be drag racing happening. So, I know it's incredibly frustrating, but if you think you're frustrated waiting to get back in racing, you're not even close to what they're going through at the moment to try and get out there. And I think, Stuart and I was saying to Stuart, we don't care what you run, anything go down. I mean, you send two unicyclists going down that track. If you want to get out there, we'll come and live stream it because we want to get back out there again and we want to do
Just
stuff.
don't break a spoke when you're going down there, please. But no spokes broken.
Well, it's nice and smooth now. The resurfacing's happening. There's been a lot of stuff. There's a lot of the lighting has been fixed. A lot of stuff. And as Pete was saying, it was what this break has let them do is to go around and to stuff that they don't necessarily have to spend a fortune on, but just stuff they simply haven't had the time and the opportunity to tidy up and to fix and all the rest of it. To get that up and running again. So at the moment, the interesting thing is that. For all the rumours you hear about Calder Park, at the moment the situation is it's not for sale. It's not going anywhere. It's
it'll never be for sale.
Well, you're probably not. Yeah, but you know what? But
they'll
anyway.
never sort out who thinks they really own it and who actually does own it. To actually put it on the market, so
there's a lot of things there, but I mean Rodney is quite keen. They're quite keen to keep, but at the moment it's not the highest of priorities. There's other things that they got to worry about, but they will get it up and running again, and we will have drag racing back at Calder Park, and hopefully sooner rather than later because we are hanging out for it. But and work continues on up at Heathcote Park. We've seen a few things up there, few things going on behind the scenes there. But anyway, we see that there's things happening up there. There's a working bee coming up. So if you're up that way and if you want to go up there and you want to help out and get to help the track get running again, I think over this weekend or something, go on their Facebook page and have a look because they're asking for people to come up and give them a hand in tidying up and doing a bit of maintenance up there.
Little bit of MotoGP news, guys, for everyone out there watching, listening, and who is there's a little bit of being a to and fro gossip between Ducati and Andre Dovizioso. That's just a bit of a fallout. No one's always ever happy. I mean, he's decided to take a year off, and there's people are saying, I didn't have a contract put in front of me, and Ducati said, we didn't offer him one. And they're saying, yes, there was. So just probably ignore most of that. But on the brighter side, some really good news is that MotoGP is here to stay, and two of the major manufacturers have committed all the way until the end of 2026. Doesn't seem that long ago now because we've just started 2021, but that's 5 more years. So usually if you get two of the bigger manufacturers, in this particular case, it's Ducati and KTM, because KTM is a rising star, obviously, even had wins this year. You think, where'd they come from? They just made 250s, didn't they? Well, no, they're making prototype MotoGP bikes and they're actually starring now. So don't know if they're as reliable as, say, some of the Jap stuff. But anyway, Ducati and KTM have committed, and also a couple of the satellite teams or the smaller, the privateers, including Tech 3 and Gresini. So 4 teams have signed on the dotted line to play ball all the way through to the end of 2026. So if you're going to get that, Honda, Suzuki, Yamis, they're not far away as well too. So that's really good news for MotoGP. So and it managed to not be done with too much controversy with all the to and froing and the carry on that goes on. So they've never been as big on the F1 as the rubbish, but it is good news there.
Yeah, they're a lot more straightforward. They're a lot more down to earth, the bike guys. As we've said before, whether it's we haven't had that much to do with the MotoGP people. We can't get anywhere near there, but we did for a while have some access to the World Superbikes, and they were fantastic people. Everyone we dealt with at every level. The late Nicky Hayden, of course, was just a wonderful guy. Troy Bale's terrific, John-Claude Keeley. They were just. A lot of people we went down there, they were very welcoming, they were friendly, they really wanted to promote the sport, they made everybody feel welcome, very, very different from say Formula One, where you don't get that sort of access and you don't get that sort of welcome that you do out of the bike guys. They don't take themselves, they're not they're not quite as up themselves as the Formula One drivers
I was
are.
waiting
So
for it.
you know,
You don't have to call them sir.
no, or your lordship, or you know, yes.
Or get down on your knee.
Yes, well, you might have to get down on your. Well, yeah, they'd like you to get down on your knee. So, you know. But that's a choice. That's a choice you can. That's a choice you can make.
TCRs will be kicking off too down in
Yeah,
Tassie as well.
that's it. We sort of jumped straight from S5, but yeah, TCR, a good field in TCR. And we've got Lee Holdsworth coming out of Supercars. Has got a gig driving the Alfa Romeo. Down there on the weekend, a lot of the drivers have come back from last year, but yeah, I mean a lot of the names like John Martin and Caruso, a lot of those guys are back again for this year, and I didn't have the opportunity of getting down the latest entry list from there, but it's a very good field, and once again, it's got there's plenty of variety. One person who unfortunately won't be down there this week is our friend Chelsea Angelo. She was hoping to be down there racing this weekend, but the real world has intruded because she has a job, and this was actually something that got in the way of her last appearance on the show. Was she's working at managing at a cafe somewhere, and they just didn't have anybody to replace her over the weekend. So it was a case of no, I've just got to I just can't make it, guys. I've got I've got real work to do. So. Unfortunately, she won't be running this weekend, but she hopefully will be running later in the year.
It seems that if there's a seat come up in TCR at the moment, it's getting snapped up pretty quickly as well too.
Yeah, I think it's like there is no doubt about it. I mean, there's a lot of rubbish being talked about. I mean, if you go online, there's people saying, "Oh, TCR is going to destroy supercars. Supercars are finished." No, that's not going to happen at all. But TCR can be a very, very viable alternative, and not just for people like the Lee Holdsworths and those sort of people, and who don't have a regular gig in supercars anymore. But for a lot of young guys who just basically there's a roadblock at the supercar level, as we've seen with Tom Randall. I mean, the guy can't do anything more than he's won the Super 2 championship. He's acquitted himself brilliantly every time he's gone out. He has substantial success overseas that he can fall back on in terms of his experience. So. But he's no closer. He doesn't seem any closer to getting a full-time drive than anybody else at the moment because there's just so many people, who aren't going anywhere.
You know what the biggest appeal I think for the TCR series is, and it really hasn't hit its straps yet, even though it's getting everyone's pumping up their tires, pun intended, is that it's not a one-make series. I mean, when you start, when you're dealing with a V8 sort of block or a large chassis or that sort of jazz, you've got 5, 6, 7 different manufacturers. You've got Peugeots, you've got Renaults, you've got Hyundais. You've got so many different manufacturers. So really, it's the spice of life, and everyone's like they're interested to see how. There's no prejudice towards any particular company on what car they're running or etc. like that. Or they might have had, my dad had one of those when he was younger, or I've always, having those Hyundai i30s, Hyundais, they fly around now, and they're just as quick as that. So it's a whole new interest. Whereas if it was a one-make category where, back in its day, Holden sponsored, you can all drive Astras around for five rounds for the year, it'd be a bit batshit boring, as I think it would come down to it. So because you've got so many variables, you've got, as you mentioned, Brett, you've got young drivers, you've got retiring drivers, you've got ones that still go out there and got some fire in them and want to fire off a few shots and, keep it respectable as well too. So it's just got so much going for it, so many variables, so many unknowns that's I think one of the most appealing things about the new TCR series. That's going to, and if they keep evolving it, it'll keep going like that for years.
Well, as we said a few weeks ago, I mean everybody's got a dog in that fight. I mean, in terms of that, if you have a look across that sort of front engine, front wheel drive, compact 2 litre car or around 2 litre 4 cylinder front wheel drive car, pretty much everybody's got every manufacturer's has got someone in that fight and in that argument. So if you have a look at it, I mean, yeah, as you say, I mean, we got what is it? Hyundai this weekend? Hyundai, Peugeot, Volkswagen, Seat. We don't see much of them, but they're very successful overseas. So Seat are there. Alfa Romeo, Honda. There's
6 or 7.
Yes, there's like 6 or 7, marks already. And we've seen overseas, we haven't seen the Lynx yet, which is essentially the Volvo brand, but that's been very successful in Asia, and I believe there is talk of them coming out there. Oh, Audi is racing. We've got a couple of Audis racing here as well. Melbourne Performance Cars are running a couple of Audis as well as Volkswagen. So, yeah, I mean we've got Audi. Audi are building up a new TCR car, I believe, as well. So everybody's committed to it. It seems to be expanding. It's an international category. There's lots of cars out there. They're not ridiculously expensive to build and maintain. Yeah, okay, they don't have 600. They don't have 640 horsepower. They don't sound as good. They're not big, noisy V8s, but yeah, they put on some really entertaining racing, and yeah, it'll be great to see them. And now they've got national television, free to air television all year, free to air live streaming all year, and they've got a major naming rights sponsor in Super Cheap Auto.
And a couple of drivers out there will also be happy about it because they don't have to. You don't have to be have to go to court and seek an exemption to to drive in supercars and get a run at Bathurst. You can actually jump in the car and go for a drive if you've got your license for it. Unlike GRM at Bathurst, yes, everyone can jump in the car. You don't need a special exemption and threaten to go to court to get in the car.
The other thing coming up this weekend is down at Tasmania as well. I think Touring Car Masters are down there as well. Ooh. So if you like your V8s, I mean you've got S5000 there making big V8 noise. But you also have your Touring Car Masters down there as well. So your A9X Tiranas, Falcon GTs, Mustangs, Camaros, all sorts of things running around. Plus some of the smaller cars as well. There's Pereira Capris. There's a few smaller cars still running around.
Someone needs to get a Sierra Cosworth out there again and put that dog.
Yeah, no, that's not eligible. Thank God. I'm not particularly happy at this stage that they've even let sort of things like the XD Falcon in and that. So the
really?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like to me, Touring Car Masters, the original cut-off date was about 1972, and it was sort of, those Trans Am cars, the era of Moffat and Jane and Beachy and all the rest of it. And then they sort of, like a few people went, we want to run later cars, we want to run a
So
SLR
you think they should make a Touring Car Middle Masters? Is that Brett?
Well, there already is. I mean, in historic racing, I mean, as we said, the Group C, the Group A cars, and all the rest of it, and then and the thing about the Group C and the Group A cars that are running at the historic meetings, will be running, say, at Phillip Island in a few weeks' time, is that they are the genuine article. They're not remanufactured things. They're not replicas. They are the genuine cars that actually raced at that time. So when you see those cars in that field, like the Glen Seaton Sierras and the Walkinshaw Commodores and the Nissan GTRs and all the rest of it, they were the cars that actually ran at the time and have a genuine racing history. And
I think you should start up a category paraphrasing, Brett, because you could have the Scooter Masters, the Walking Frame Masters, the Walking Stick Masters, the ones the limp Masters where you actually don't need any assistance whatsoever, the Caretaker Masters where you get the nurse for 3 days a week.
The
problem with running the Sierras, to get back on topic, especially if you were trying to run the Skyline like GTR.
Yeah, I
Imagine
was
the speed difference between that and one of the Trans Ams or the Mustangs.
Oh no,
The
yeah,
difference would be like a Formula One coming up behind a
Yeah.
Formula V. That just wouldn't be safe. So a whole other class would be fabulous.
yeah. No, I was just having a joke. If I had really wanted to be controversial, I would have thrown the GTR, the Godzilla in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
if
as
you
I
race
said,
the
they
Skyline,
can.
I'll happily race the GTR.
They can they can they can race in historics, and that would be a good spot. That's why I'd like to see Group C. The cars I think that moved into the Group C era, like the Commodore and the XD Falcon, the Mazda RX-7, all those sorts of things. I would prefer that they weren't in touring car masters, because I just think that they're losing a lot of that for me anyway. I mean, I
TCM
suppose
is as much about the show as it is about the chassis.
All right, I'll
Much
throw it
about
out to the
things being
forum.
drifting and what have you. Yep.
I'll throw it out to the forum. We have obviously, you've got your touring car masters, as you said, you've got your historics, etc. On a serious note, again, at some stage in the next few years, and a lot of them have gone overseas too, because they've been snapped up by overseas buyers. Will you see and a lot of them have been restored. I mean, we looked at Larry Perkins' one this year, and there's always websites bringing him up all the time. Will we see an original supercar series before they started the Car of the Future stuff category, where they're going to have it racing against each other? How many years away is that? 5 years? 10 years?
Oh, that's basically happening. That's basically happening now. I mean, we've got sort of Super 3, which runs a lot of those cars, a lot of those historic cars.
But that's for the young talent. That's for the young talent.
Well, it's not really. I mean, yeah, it is for some of the young talent. But if you look at Super 3, a lot of those people are the historic guys running their cars in having another opportunity to run their cars outside. Because at the moment, groups, some of the early model supercars are not eligible for historic racing. They run in exhibition races, but they're not, because at the moment the categories that are recognised in historic racing are Groups A and Group C. Supercars are not yet officially recognised. Perhaps they will be one day, but at this stage they're just, when they appear at places like Phillip Island, they're there as an invitation class to run unofficial races. So. So
if
eventually they will.
That should mean Larry should be able to run the tune length exhaust on the Commodore and just upset people with that lovely sound that it made.
Oh well, I mean, he's restored that car, and it's got the original Holden engine in it, which does have that lovely sound. So
I think I saw that the Silver Bullet's being restored at the moment too, isn't it?
You'd hope so.
Which car was that?
The one of the last ones that they manufacture.
Yes, yeah.
Was it Russell Ingle? Russell Ingle was in the car with him.
Yeah,
the Castrol. Yeah, Russell was in it with him. The Silver Bullets could be nicknamed years ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, Larry's got in there along with Jack. I mean, Jack and Larry are rebuilding a lot of those cars, and they're becoming a little bit like sort of what Fred Gibson is doing in terms of you running. Going back into the cars that they actually ran in the old days and restoring them, and then actually preparing them for their new owners and racing them and keeping them in good condition. So you've got the Gibson Motorsport stuff with the old Nissans.
I've been down there. I've had a tour of the workshop from top to bottom, and as part of a club meeting, and they and Melbourne Performance Centre, as you know as well. I've been there as well too, Brett. All these. This was before 2020 COVID stuff. They all give a lot of satisfied customers and a lot of support. They will pack up a truck. They'll be down there. They'll put up marquees. They'll, basically roll out the red carpet in the Gibson Motorsport and the Melbourne Performance Centre, the tours I've had in the last 2 years. So, and I'm sure there are many other businesses that do exactly the same out there. And you've got to pay top dollar for it, but they do look after you as well.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's good to see the history there. The thing about those cars is we're more likely to keep those cars in Australia. I mean, perhaps some of the Group A cars, because certainly some of the Sierras and that have already gone overseas. There's a Tony Longhurst Sierra running in England. There's a couple of Dick Johnson Sierras running in England. I saw somewhere just in America, I think there's one of the ex-Glen Seaton cars is running over there.
An EL or an EF or something.
Yeah, so they're pretty popular. It's very hard for us to keep car. I mean, sort of, I see the Roltar T4 that Nelson Piquet ran in the Australian Grand Prix. That's currently for sale at the moment, and people are saying that probably won't stay in Australia. It's been here since the early '80s, but it may well end up overseas because, I mean, there's just right now, because of the state of our dollar and all that, they're bargains over here.
Well, just slightly off topic, a Dunny Door, I think it might have finished already, a Dunny Door. Mars Lou went for over $1 million. I think it was orange, a burnt orange in colour in the last week. Did anyone see that?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The Maloo Ute, the special.
Okay.
The special, whatever it was, one of the last models made. It was ridiculously. Went for over $1 million, I think. That's what I said. A Dunny Door, which means Commodore, and Mars Lou, Maloo Ute. Anyway, that's some of the used car market. People are paying some knockout prices at the moment.
Yeah, there's stupid. The people are paying stupid amounts of money for some of these things, which only goes to show you that some people have got too much money and that they're not particularly wise in how they spend it. Because I mean, there's some really stupid amounts of money floating around. Someone probably watching this week. Somebody said after I spoke about Capris. Someone on the YouTube channel left a comment saying that they had a Capri. If I was interested, yes, I am interested. If I sold absolutely everything I own, including the gear that we're doing the show on right now, I might go close. I'd have to live in it, but
when we finish this broadcast on YouTube, flick across to Brett's Bargain Basement Barn Finds, and he does a YouTube chat for about an hour on that, and he categorises and goes through the Capris if you want. So Brett's Bargain Barn Finds. Look that up on YouTube, and you'll see Brett.
Now, speaking of this, we might pull out. Because speaking of YouTube, before we go, we might wrap this up because on YouTube right about now, in fact, if you switch over to if you're watching on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel, thank you for watching. But if you would like to turn over, the start of the Rally of Monte Carlo is happening right now on their YouTube channel. It's just a ceremonial start, so probably not that thrilling. But anyway, if you're interested, also coming up the Raw before the 24 at Daytona is happening this week. IMSA Racing and the Daytona. We've got over 50 cars entered for the Daytona 24 Hours, which in the current environment is fantastic, and that will be on IMSA.tv, covered by our friends John Hindhoff and the crew from Radio Le Mans, Shay Adam and those guys. Yeah, brilliant commentary, great coverage always on that on IMSA.tv. It's a bit hard to go. The website isn't brilliantly designed, so sometimes it's a bit hard to find but if you just keep clicking around, you'll eventually find the link, and it'll pop up on your television screen over the weekend. So that's happening this weekend as well, the Raw before the 24, and then of course the weekend after will be the Daytona 24 Hour. So that's how we're spending the end of January watching the Daytona 24 Hour. So there you go. So Stuart,
Rally Monte Carlo has 56 minutes before it starts live streaming.
Oh, okay. So once again, YouTube is the YouTube
coffee break.
Yeah, if you put something into YouTube and you ask it to convert to local time zone, it's often, I don't know whether it's because they don't factor in daylight saving or something, but often it will be an hour out either way. It will either be an hour ago or another hour, but either way. If you want to if you want to have a look.
Oh, they have a principle. They finishes daylight savings and they change to the hour for daylight savings, so that way when they do it, they're just 6 months behind all the time. That's all.
And then they change your computer time without letting you know.
Yeah, you're right. Totally against you. But
anyway, let's call it a day. We've got plenty to look at over the weekend. So it'll be at least Monday and at least Monday and Tuesday. A bit weird not happening with stuff not happening on Saturday and Sunday. But yeah, we can have a couple of days off. We can do the gardening or do whatever it is people do, normal people do on weekends when there's no motor racing.
Lime and soda at Brett's.
Yeah, yes, probably that. So anyway, so thanks for watching this nonsense that we have every week. As I said, it's not a show. We're not doing a show. Someone said, tell us about the show. But we know that there's people watching because, well, Doc was, Doc was with us at the time and in the pub when someone came up and said hi and wanted to talk about the show and what was happening.
It's good you've got witnesses.
Yeah, so
he pays me a hefty fine. No, it's good. We're actually just hanging out for we unofficially call it a business lunch where we get to just catch up, and we not just we had the cricket in the background, so we touch on about the plans on what the pipe dreams of what we want to try and do for in pit lane throughout the year, including he did mention your ideas as well, Stuart, which I am inclined to like as well too. All the different stuff that we were banning about, and half it never happens, but we try our utmost here at In Pit Lane to make as much happen as possible. As Brett's saying, we're not doing the show, but this particular couple, and the wife chimed in just as much as possible. They come from around the corner, and they go, I know that voice. That's the guy from In Pit Lane, and they teed off on him straight away. So without even looking at him, they just knew his voice.
It's always the voice. It's like I said, years ago in Russell Street, walking in there, and a blind woman was sitting down having their. I kid you not, and she went there, and she had the guide dog was sitting next to her, and she went, "Excuse me, can I ask you a question? Are you the guy from Channel 31's car racing show?" I know that voice. We had it in Hong Kong too. Somebody came up and yelled across a room and went, "Oh, excuse me, mate." Melissa was never happy when that happened. It's like, oh, you're so embarrassing. It's always the voice.
So that's another week of a chat and craziness and what have you. And you were going to stop 4 minutes ago?
And so we will stop now. So thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back same time next week, 9:00. And as I said, if you want to get on the panel, if you just want to, because there's room for about another 3 or 4 people on the panel the way it's set up. So if you want to come in and add your, 2 bobs worth or whatever is sort of we're talking about. We would love to have you, especially if you're in the business, if you're a driver, if you're a flaggy or another official, somebody with stories to tell or inside goss. By all means, come and
or at least
talk to
stories
us.
that are outside of the statute of limitations.
Yes. As long as it's nothing we're going to get sued for or banned for or anything like that.
They could be rumours, but keep them clean.
Keep it clean and keep them real. Yeah. Okay, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Good night to everybody, and we'll see you again next week on another edition of Full Course Yellow. And remember, keep heading to the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. We put up some stuff from with David Red. We will put up the full interview with Tommy Smith a little bit later on in the week. And we've also got other things coming from that meeting at Sandown as well. It's just been slow to get around to doing it, but that is there now. Will start popping up over the next week or so. So until next week, 9:00 here, Thursday night here on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel and the In Pit Lane Facebook page. From all of us, it's thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.